Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Janet Jefferson. Today, we are talking about screen time, how to limit our time on screens, and why that is important. Joining us is Anne Bryan, mother of 4 sons, former member of Beaverton School Board, CEO of Circle, a company that specializes in solutions for screen time management. Thank you so much, Anne, for being here today.
It's a pleasure, Janet. I'm really excited to speak with your audience about all the challenges that we've been facing in the last year plus, and really as parents every day.
That's so true. To our viewers who are watching right now, feel free to submit any questions or comments you have in the comment section, and we can get to as many of those as we can. All right, Anne, let's jump in. So first, I just want to talk about the problem. So what is the current American family relationship with the internet?
It's really a love-hate relationship. It's been such a lifeline for us, particularly the last year and a half. So many things. It was the safe way to access information and each other. It was so important. And also, we know that we don't feel great uh, because we've been communicating only with screens. And so we have this push-pull where we need them, but also we know that we need to better manage them in our lives. I think all adults are familiar with Zoom fatigue. And then when we think about young developing brains and what that's affecting them too, we know that there's a need for solutions that help us be the kind of people that we want to be. And we know that that means limiting our time on screens to the degree that we can, understanding that they're not going to go away. We do need them to do an awful lot of jobs.
So what are some of the statistics on this, and what particularly, how is it impacting kids? And I know, as you said, it's changed over the past year and a half, but what does the situation look like right now?
Right. So use on screens, particularly for children, has really skyrocketed. Some of the statistics are, it's increased 500%. I can remember as a child seeing Calvin and Hobbes cartoons that talked about kids being on TV 7 hours a day. Now it's that 7 hours a day, plus all the time that they needed to be on for school and their other activities. So it's approaching 10 plus hours a day for children. And really their growing minds were never designed or evolved to do that.
Right. And then is this hitting all age ranges, or are we really seeing it hitting one group of kids harder than the rest?
What we're seeing is that screen times across all age groups really has increased. Preschool was happening online. I mean, things that are just mind blowing to even say out loud were happening. Preschool online, and parents trying to work while also having their kids receive their education. We know that it's been affecting particularly teens in a very personal way. They need to be able to communicate with their friends, so they're online all the time, but they're also more prone to feeling anxiety and depression. All age groups have seen a few pounds get added on. You're more likely to have symptoms of obesity or be more likely to have unhealthy behaviors. Less sleep is happening across all age groups because you're online more and it's distracting. So we're really seeing these negative health benefits across all ages, with a particular pain point at the teenage years.
That's really interesting. So I'm a mother of 2, and my oldest is 4. And so we were one of those families attempting to do online preschool, which, as you said, is crazy. It's just crazy. And of course, the teachers were doing their very best and trying to make it really engaging and have all these different projects. But I was sort of, as a parent, I was blown away as a parent of a 3-4-year-old of all of the different platforms that we were expected to
Mhm.
engage with. And even though it's like, okay, here are these different projects that go with it, still the amount of time that she was spending on the computer was alarming. Um, so let's shift a little bit, and we know there's a big problem. So let's talk a little bit about the solution. Can you tell us just a little bit about your company, Circle, how it works, and what users are getting out of it?
Well, Circle is really designed to be able to provide families the tools they need to create their home internet solution that they want. So we provide parents the information about where usage is happening, when it's happening, and then also be able to set time limits, set a bedtime. Everyone needs one, and be able to just pause the internet for all devices at a time if you want family dinners to be device free. We also provide a new feature, pandemic inspired, called Focus Time, which makes it so that you can have your online tools available to do the work that you need. You know, I self-manage myself. So during my focus time, I stay off of Instagram, online games, news sites, things that are not critical for me to get my work done. But I can get on and access all my email, Slack, Zoom, those kinds of tools that make it. And you could imagine, you know, for your 4-year-old, you might have a similar setup so that they use just those sites that they were required to for school, but then you're not worried about what else they're doing during school.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you talk a little bit more about some of Circle's features? And I know that when someone chooses to work with Circle, there's a lot of different layers to it. You know, there's hardware, software, and subscription options. So just speaking a little bit about what you're offering, and then what are some of the features, maybe
Sure.
beyond just time management.
Absolutely. So if you wanted to get started on Circle, there's a few different ways that you could get started. Janet, you could get started today by going to the App Store and downloading Circle, and you'll be able to use that product to manage any iOS or Android device in your home, including Chromebooks and Kindle tablets. I'm guessing for your 4-year-old, that might be pretty comprehensive in terms of what it is that they need to manage. And even many teens, you know, they've got a Chromebook and they've got a phone, and that's all they need. If you also want to manage your smart TVs and your gaming systems, maybe you've got an Xbox or a PlayStation player at your home, then you're going to want to have our in-home solution that's available with a hardware device that sits between your phone and your router, and that's called Circle Home Plus. We sell that and both the App Store product and our bundled product with a subscription to access all of the features, which will make it so that you can set time limits so that you're only spending half an hour on games a day, or maybe I have a son who has a YouTube habit that he wishes was not quite so addictive. So maybe he would choose to limit his time on YouTube to, you know, and we would have that conversation. Say, well, what do you think is reasonable? How do you want to, how can I help you be successful at all the things that you want to do? We know that you want to be able to have more time for practicing music, throwing some basketballs, getting out and seeing friends, if, you know, face to face, maybe going for a run later today. So what do we need to do to set those limits so that you can be the kind of person that you want to be?
I really like how it does inspire goal setting and planning, and a little bit of learning about how to structure your life. So I can see it as almost like an empowering tool, both for parents and kids, to work together to just promote really healthy behaviors. And I feel like we've lost a lot of that in the past year and a half, and that this could be a useful tool to help set some guidelines.
I really feel like we're at a great point as we get ready for back to school for us all to say, well, what do we want our new habits to be? We know
Mm.
that was a little different, but now we have a time to reset. Yeah, and I think there's going to be some flexibility necessary as we try to, but let's think about who we want to be and how we want to act as a family. And then we can say, so what's that conversation look like so that we have the information? I can see where the usage is going now. That's the beginning part of that conversation. And then using that, we can say, well, we want to have our screens off an hour before bedtime. When should bedtime be? Well, we know we all have to be out the door by some ungodly hour. So we're going to set that bedtime to be on our screens an hour before our actual bedtime. And then how much time is reasonable on each of our platforms? Let's set our time limits for that. And then Circle also has a feature where, you know, maybe this one day, you know, you're really deep in a game and you finished all your homework and you need some extra time. So so a parent can give a reward to allow that extra time as needed with that conversation between the parent and the child, so that they can have access to the things that they need or want to do within the context that the family's already set.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the most popular features with parents? And then what are maybe some of the popular features with kids?
So I love, they're not exactly the same. But what we do see is that, more than 90% of parents say that a circle helps their family, have better screen time habits in their home, which I'm just so proud of. The thing that we know that they are most interested in and use the most are our usage and our history screens. They really just want to have an idea of what's going on. And often it's a little sobering.
Mm.
We send information to families that say, you've been online this many hours a day. Did you know? And really for parents, that's that eye-opening of, oh, well, so now what do I do? And the reports from kids are, I would say, mixed. So, and often it has to do with, well, what does that conversation look like in the home? So I would always say, particularly if you've got an older child, actually, I have a vision where, everyone goes home from the hospital with a car seat in a circle, because screens are part of our homes every day. And so if you just start your child before you even think they need to, building those kinds of habits and the relationships with online technology that you want them to have, that's going to last a long time. They're going to understand what those expectations are. Starting to control screen time with a 16-year-old, possible, but much harder.
Mm-hmm.
And so depending on how that conversation goes in the home, we do have some teens who say, I can't believe anybody is monitoring my screen time at all. And then the part I love is that same review will say, but I did get better grades. Or we had one this week. It did help me with my screen addiction. So, and to hear that coming from kids, I think is one, wow, those are some self-aware kids. And two, nobody really likes all of this extra time. People want to feel in control of their lives, and they want to feel like they're connecting one-on-one with people. For children in particular, we know their brain development, it really relies on interactive communication, hands-on manipulative play. Math skills happen when you're building with blocks and running around outside and creating new games. And so these are all things that really, as you observed as a preschooler parent doing online school, there's only a minute of it you can do online successfully. And then the rest of it's really like, well, now go do a cooking project or something, so that they were away from their screens and actually doing some hands-on work, because that's how brains develop.
Absolutely. So I think something interesting that, I'm thinking about, I'm listening you speak, is you're talking about, learning to regulate at an early age. And I know everyone of our generation, we didn't grow up with this stuff. So I don't think we're ever taught, because it just didn't exist, how to regulate. So I see Circle as also potentially a really useful tool just for adults, because I think so many adults have found themselves in this situation where we often don't know how to regulate our devices either. And I've seen that in a professional setting where, I'd be sitting down. I used to be a classroom teacher, and I'd be sitting down for a parent teacher conference to speak to the parents about maybe their student struggling with how to use screens appropriately. And there the parent would be on the phone while I'm trying to have a conversation with them. So I think that this is such an incredible tool for adults as well, especially us, who didn't grow up with this and really need to teach ourselves how to use this appropriately.
Yeah, as with everything else, we're the most important model in our home. And so I always do say it really is helpful for parents to regulate themselves. Think about what you're modeling. It's almost like that joke, like don't yell inside, where the parents kind of lose it. But for screen time ourselves, everyone does need a bedtime. So something like Circle can help a parent. Self-management is a feature of our product, so that adults can control themselves, at least get that reminder. Great. How long were you on? The tools are designed to make it hard for you to know how much time you were on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, Candy Crush, whatever it happens to be, that's your vice. And everyone knows what yours is. Mine will be different than yours, Jana, and everyone has one. The tools are designed in order to keep you there, and they're very good at their job. So it really is something where you think, especially as we go through this summer back to school, who do we want to be as a family? How do we connect more with each other? What tools do we need to help ourselves be the model that we want to be, so that we can have the conversations with our kids? they need to see our eyes just like we need to see theirs.
Hmm.
And a tool like Circle, where you can get more information about your usage, set filters on yourself so that you're going to be accessing the kind of content that you or your child would like, time limits, focus time, a whole house pause if you need it. These kinds of tools are really empowering, and great reminders of where your limits are and where you want them to be.
Hmm. Hmm. How is Circle different from maybe some other companies out there that offer similar things, or even just the little notifications that you can get on your phone that give you a quick weekly report? What are some of the things that Circle offers or provides that might be different from other companies?
The thing that it is the best at is that it really gives you a whole house view with one app.
Hmm.
So that instead of having to go set up everybody's phone or look to see on theirs, it's really a one-time easy setup for all operating systems across your whole family and across every person. So it's just the most complete and easiest to use solution. Sometimes I talk with people and they say, well, I've got this covered. I've got this thing set up on my router and this thing set up on my iPhone and this thing set up on my Android tablet. And at least in my experience, that's not how people want to operate, right? We want chargers that operate with all of our devices, and we want to be able to manage screen time with a single app. And mom can do that, or dad, with their phone and see a whole house view of what's going on. It's the easiest to use and the most comprehensive.
Yeah, integrated management is definitely, it makes things easier for busy families. And I can also see how it really provides maybe some accountability. Whereas I can see my report for the week and just be like, ooh, maybe it was a rough week. But no one knows except for me. Whereas if my partner saw it and, could hold me accountable and say, hey, Janet, I've noticed you're on your screen a lot. I could see that could be a helpful tool, even for siblings or other family members. And it's like, oh, we're all working towards this common goal together.
You could
And
imagine a family getting together at the end of the week and saying, well, how did we do? What kind of challenges could we set for ourselves so that we do better next week? Or maybe,
mhm.
wow, look at this one time where we all sat and watched that fun family movie together. That made sense. It was just on our TV and everything else was turned off. So you could really imagine that this is a tool for communication enhancement and to facilitate information gathering and goal setting within a family.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it really can give a lot back. So with that, thinking about what this screen management can really do, what do filters allow us to do, or big picture, what do they really give back to us that maybe we've lost over the past not only year and a half, but thinking about as this has just become more and more prevalent in our lives?
So the filtering itself, the very first thing it does is it provides a very baseline set of protection that you don't even know about.
Hmm.
So for example, your inbox is probably full. You run a podcast of emails where you think, I didn't send anything to that person. I wonder if I should investigate more or not. And if you might unsuspectingly click a link in that and that you really ought not be. Circle's going to protect you from visiting a site that would be malicious or further infect your home. So it's a very baseline set of protection that we don't even give you the option to turn off. Those are the kind of just foundational set of security that we feel like is important. And then the next set is being able to say, well, for my teenager, I want them to have access to some sites, but not to others. So you can decide, maybe I want them to be able to play their music all day long, and that's going to be great, but I don't want them to be on games all day long. And so you're going to set different filters or different time limits for them. We have one feature that a lot of parents like that we call a zero time limit, which means you're allowed to play games, but only after you're done with all your chores. And so the child would then have that conversation to say, okay, I'm ready. I've done all the things I was supposed to do today. And then the parent can issue that reward that says, oh, great. Well, now I know that you're going to need an hour to play that game. And so it really provides more choice and context. And the other thing we're going to do is provide safety for children depending on where they are in their development. So for example, we're going to block dating sites for younger children. I have a story in my own family. One of my nephews one day was, getting ready to go with his family to go to Las Vegas. They live a few hours away, and wanted to know where the best toy store was. And so Googled, Las Vegas toys, and ended up with an eyeful of sites that they were not really expecting. A tool like Circle is going to prevent that kind of experience, which I think we would all want to do for a child that was younger. So it's really that kind of baseline guidance and just some guardrails on what that experience is going to look like, and a lot of flexibility for parents in terms of what kind of content do I think is appropriate for my child and their social development.
You have partnered up with Jenny Urich, the woman behind 1,000 Hours Outside, and she's also the author of a new book around that same topic. I just wanted to hear a little bit about what you two are working on together.
Right. So I think what we are doing is just trying to promote more time away from screens. And we both come at this problem from different angles. Ginny is really just trying to model great behavior about what outdoor time looks like, and reminding people about what those benefits look like as we get outside. Hopefully everyone had a chance to at least get outside a little bit during the day, during all your work from home hours. And I know that everyone could feel that additional strength and energy that comes from the vitamin D, from the active movement. They're going to feel more relaxed and less anxiety in their life if they do that. And so in concert, a tool like Circle that says, okay, your off time starts now at 4:30 and until 7:30 at night or something. You could imagine a family choosing to have no screens during that time so that they can get off screens, have an afternoon walk or afternoon activity outside, get dinner, and have some family time connection, and then be ready to, maybe do their last bit of homework before the night is over. So we're really working together to promote time off screens and time outside. And so it's been a great partnership for us.
That's great. Jenny's project sounds really interesting. And I think, anytime that families are able to get outside more together is great. It's, healthy in so many ways. So speaking of that, outside, it's summertime. What are some suggestions that you have for summertime tech guidelines or screen guidelines? And how might those be different from the regular school year, which I think is particularly interesting to think about the school year now, because it's changed so much, and then maybe it's going to change again. So maybe those three different scenarios: summertime, in-person teaching, and then virtual learning at home. So how might you choose to monitor those and set those guidelines a little bit differently?
Right. So I always like to start at bedtime, and that's probably because I need a lot of sleep, and I know my kids need a lot of sleep too. And so the first thing I would do is just say, well, so how's our summer schedule going to differ from our during the school year schedule? And interestingly, online school schedule, at least for my kids, was very different than their regular. We would say the one pandemic perk was that school didn't start till 8, whereas we used to all have to be out the door before 7 in the morning. And for a growing teenager, that was really a gift. Even with that, bedtime is still, needs to be set depending on when we all need to be up and going in the morning. And so I would start with a bedtime conversation in all of those scenarios. If you're going to be doing online learning, I would really consider how focus time sits in your home, whether it's for homework time or whether it's for during school time, because you are going to need to be online doing things, but you don't want to be distracted. And so how do you minimize those distractions? Probably less for a 4-year-old than for a 10-year-old, but they're very real. And looking at the Circle features for monitoring usage and history, you'll get a big sense of, well, what are the distractions? When are they happening? And be able to take a look and then see how do we best support our kids in setting up that focus time so that they can get their work done. The other things I would be looking at are what kinds of activities, particularly in the summer, do I want to make sure, but this is true any time of year, do I want to make sure that there's time for, right? So if you follow Ginny on 1,000 Hours Outside, what you're going to see is, they really are looking at full day activities every day. Not all families can do that. So what you're going to think about is, well, what does my family's schedule look like? How do we make time for outdoor time, enrichment activities, family to make dinner together, whatever it is that your family really enjoys. And then think about where screens fit into that. Maybe you do want to be able to have your music playing, but you don't want videos on while you're cooking. So, or maybe videos and learning from Khan Academy or your favorite cooking website are going to be a critical part of your dinner. That's going to really depend on each family. And you're going to want to think about, well, so how do I set up and craft my family's screen time to match the kind of family that we want to be?
Yeah, a lot to consider, but it's great that it's so customizable and you can really match it to your needs. I love your suggestion of thinking about bedtime starting there, because I would have never thought with bedtime to start with there. I would think about the morning, but that makes so much sense. And you're right, sleep is the cornerstone, I think, of many families' happiness. And if somebody doesn't sleep at night, doesn't matter who it is, even it could even be the dog, but it impacts everyone. And I think that's a great piece of advice is start with bedtime.
It is amazing that that's just the cornerstone of taking care of ourselves. And, that's the parents and the kids. And it's so tempting to let that go by the wayside. But, and particularly in this, I think, work from home world, if you, I have watched both in my school board role and as a parent, so many kids that are, camera off going to school, and you think, well, what does that really mean for their engagement and participation? And how do we help them to really fully participate in whatever their school is going to look like?
Yeah. How has screen management gone in your house? What has been your experience, and what tools have you found the most useful? 4 boys, that's a full house, and being a different age range. What does that look like for you?
So for us, and really, I think every parent is going to be have their own lens here. What I have learned is some of the things we've talked about. Starting early is always the most effective. Consistency, and I know this is like not new news for parents, but the more that you're consistent on your rules, the easier it's going to be. Your kids are always going to push what the boundary is. And so if a parent is clear in their own mind and then gentle and caring in how they reinforce that, you're always going to have more success. My kids, and I know you can see me, it's probably no surprise, they're a little bit older. When I started working for Circle, they've been testing Circle now for about 8 years. And so my youngest was 10 when I started, him being a beta tester for the product, and he just graduated from high school. And so we've watched this go through the whole cycle. Of no, we don't need to be on screens much when he was 10, to now for him to be able to communicate and have his music and have the tools that he needs in order to learn computer science that he's teaching himself. Like, all of these things really happen in a progression. But I'll also tell you that as a parent, one of the greatest things that I've had is my 3 sons who have left home and gone on to school, have all confided in me that they have downloaded another product to help them, because they wanted that kind of experience to be able to self-regulate. I've helped them find a good one, and really get access to Circle, because I believe it is the all-age solution for everyone. But it was really gratifying that they knew, because they had grown up with this experience in their own lives, that there was a better way, that they didn't need to, and they all had goals that they were trying to achieve, and they knew that some of these online applications were making it harder for them, and so they wanted a little bit more control in their life. And some of the tools they do are just hilarious, right?
I think it's such a
alarm
great
clocks where you have to do math problems in order
yeah. Oh, I love it.
If you didn't have your bedtime set, and you have to do aggressive things in order to make it work in your life. But they don't want to feel like that either.
Mhm. That's so funny. I think it shows that it's such a great way to sort of transfer family values. And if you start it in your home when kids are young, or even with your older boys, you know, they have internalized it and now are using it themselves in some capacity. So I think it does show that screen management tools are really powerful and can be really effective in giving you control over your life.
I think the
Um,
big thing is parents are powerful. And
mm,
that's my main thing that I want all parents to know. And screen time is one of those things that a parent needs to model and manage, just like your child's eating habits or your child's sleep habits, or maybe how they dress every day. I remember stories, like you cannot wear stripes and plaids. Like, I mean, there's all these things that parents do that they never thought they would have to do, but that's part of being a parent. And screen time, sadly or happily, is one of those things. But parents are empowered to be able to help manage and teach. And
mm.
that's what a screen time management tool can really do, help them model and teach in the way that they want to.
That's very comforting. And I think a lot of parents need that as a reminder, is that you know, we are the parents and we do have the power to help raise our children, and that there are just a lot of great tools out there to assist us. Well, thank you so much, Anne Bryan, for joining us today. Anne Bryan is CEO of Circle, which is a screen management company that focuses on screen management solutions. Thank you also to all of our viewers and listeners. Make sure that you visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for local up-to-date information on home, health, and living for today's Maryland parent. This episode will be archived on ChesapeakeFamily.com in both video and podcast format. You can also find a link to Circle's webpage there to discover more about all the great tools and features that Circle has. I'm Janet Jefferson with Chesapeake Family Life and Third Floor Views. Thank you so much.
Thank you.